right, well, thank you for letting me do this road trip through Wisconsin. We'll cover several areas all the way from Karel Yonash's Racine, Wisconsin, up through even the Hagen area in northwestern Wisconsin at the Czech Opera House there. So Czechs in Wisconsin is all sponsored by Czech Talk, and this map is courtesy of Czech Talk. It's on my website, czechtalk.com/Czech North American Organizations, and it's all based on CGSI's translation project that they did on the history of Czechs in America by Habenich. There were 127 cities listed in the Wisconsin section of that book, so I tried to map them all out here for you, all listed in alphabetical order. There are several Moravian churches around the state. This may not be all of them that ever existed, but there are several of them. Some of my favorites are these three. The lower photo is from the Wisconsin Rapids near Stevens Point in central Wisconsin, and the two top photos are from Door County, one in Ephraim, which overlooks just a beautiful, gorgeous view of the bay there, and the Moravian Church in Sturgeon Bay. One of the more obscure events that took place was one of the earliest organizations. In fact, the Czechoslovak Baptist Convention of the USA and Canada actually started 2 years before Bohemian Lawyers Association of Chicago, but they had two of their conventions were in the state of Wisconsin. One was in 1912 in Pound, and the other was in 1948 in Green Lake, Wisconsin. There are several Bohemian cemeteries. This certainly is not a complete list. There are so many more, but these are just a few that come up immediately. One of them, when I went to tour, I couldn't find it anywhere. This is the one in Rose, Wisconsin. I stopped on a corner house and I said, "Where is the cemetery?" And they said, "Well, just a second, let me go get my ATV and I'll show you." So a lot of these are in very, very small communities with virtually nothing around it, very, very rural communities. One of the more exciting things is potentially even the Czechoslovak voice competition, where they sing opera, and that's every October. That's at the University of Wisconsin in Green Bay. There are several Czech American organizations in Wisconsin. Here are just a few. There's the Miss Czechoslovak Wisconsin pageant up in Phillips, Wisconsin. That's way up north. The Czech Opera House in Hagen, Wisconsin has lots of events that they're always hosting. A lot of times their events are standing room only and you can barely get a ticket. Wisconsin Czechs typically has most of their events in the Appleton area, Mishikot areas. The Sokol Milwaukee primarily services Milwaukee, and I'm hoping that perhaps someday we'll be able to really cater to the entire state somehow. But at this point, a lot of the organizations are in those primary locations, although Cadet is also very active as well. There are two sister cities in the state of Wisconsin. One is in Rice Lake, and they are partner cities with Žamberk. Two Rivers, Wisconsin is sister cities to Domažlice. The Domažlice story really, or sister cities partnership, really stems from the one-man show called The Accidental Hero that is put on by Patrick Duane. His grandfather was a farm boy who grew up on his grandparents' farm, speaking Czech, and the results of that story was a very close connection with Two Rivers, but I don't want to spoil the details for you if you haven't seen the show, but definitely want to see that, The Accidental Hero by Patrick Duane. When it comes to U.S. consuls and ambassadors to Prague from Wisconsin, whether it was under Austria-Hungary or even while it was Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic, we have Karel Yonash, who was from Racine, Richard Graber from Milwaukee. Sokol Milwaukee hosted an event with him, and Stephen King much more recently from Janesville, Wisconsin. I don't know if that's a complete list, but did my best, and I just try to keep track of things when I find out about them. Businesses that have Czech ties in Wisconsin, we've got Viking Mašek out of Oostburg, SSI Technologies out of Janesville, Kohler, Wisconsin, or the Kohler Industries. They're based in Kohler, but I haven't quite figured out where in the Czech Republic they are. I just know that they have Czech ties as well. When it comes to Bohemian halls, probably the two most active halls that I'm aware of are the one in Kadat and the one in Hagen. The Česká Opera House in Hagen I mentioned earlier, and then Kadat, they have a lot of events there as well. Some of the Bohemian halls, like these two older ones, one is in Friendship, Wisconsin, and the other is in Ashland. They've both been recently sold and are primarily used, I believe, mainly just for either storage or maybe even a dance practice hall or various things like that. But they're no longer technically Bohemian halls anymore. Sokol organization, I apologize, I did not get the arrows on the map for all of these locations, but Sokol existed all over the state. We can't find much information. In fact, I haven't found anything yet on the Sokol that existed up in the LaGrange County, but a lot of Sokols existed, and only one is left now, and that is our Sokol Milwaukee. Although we don't have a building anymore, most of our events take place either at a library, a public park, or online for that matter. One of the organizations that really catered a lot to the Czech communities of Wisconsin was the ZCBJ/WFLA Insurance Lodge, which is now known as Better Life. It's very difficult to get much information on them, but this is a map from 2004 where the lodges existed all around the state at that time. One of the most curious locations that I am most interested in is this Little Bohemia Lodge way up in northern Wisconsin, where the shootout with the Dillinger and the FBI took place in Manitowish waters. There's a very beautiful lodge, but there's also, you can barely see it, in the top photo there's a chimney, and on that chimney is the phrase Nazdar. And nearby to this location they also have a street named Sokol and other indications that it was tied to Sokol, but I have not been able to find more information on that. Another curious tidbit is this photo. I know that the person on the far left is Vojta Mašek, very big businessman well, he started in Racine, but then he went up into Kewanee, and he was I think he was part business owner in a grocery store. He had a logging company. He built his own ships. He ended up buying the harbor in Kewanee and then building another one. Just a very big businessman. But the gentleman next to him, that's Karel Yonash. But we don't know who the other two gentlemen were. And if anyone knows about them, I would love to know who they are. Karel Yonash, it's really hard to talk about Czechs in Wisconsin without at least mentioning his burial site in Prague, where he says, "Mám přání jediné, být pochován v té drahé zemi české, po níž tak hroucně jsem toužil a jíž jsem vše obětoval." Essentially that means, I have one wish, and that is to be buried in the land that is dear to me, the one that I longed so much for and for which I sacrificed everything. When we talk about Karel Yonash, he was approached to find, while it was still under Austria-Hungary, by the Democratic Party on who he would support as a very big leader in the Czech community all across the nation. He was approached and asked who he would support as an American consul to Prague, and he said that he would not support anyone who is not a Bohemian, a lawyer, and a politician. It was quoted that his countrymen would be offended by the selection of any man not a Bohemian, that he will do nothing for you or for any other Native American. Jonas's influence would be pivotal. In September of 2020, if you go on my Facebook page, Anna Cookova, you'll be able to scroll down to September of 2020 and see one of our online votes that we did through Wisconsin Czechs, where I want to say it was almost a 3-hour event, and we were able to really learn a lot about many things that have to do with Czechs in Wisconsin, so you're welcome to check that out as well. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me on this tour of Czechs in Wisconsin. Thank you.